So happy to have you here with us on the Stronger Marriage webinar produced by the Utah Marriage Commission, hosted by Utah State University. I'm Olivia Watts, and we are so excited to have you join us today as we celebrate 25 years of marriage celebration in 2023. In today's webinar, we are so excited to be joined by Kyle Barth. Kyle is not your typical relationship therapist. Yes, he's a licensed marriage and family therapist with over a decade of experience, but here's the twist. He's been through a divorce. Unexpected, right? Kyle believes that life has a funny way of steering us in unexpected directions. However, this experience further ignited his passion to help others build safe, secure, and connected relationships. Kyle's mission is to empower individuals to cultivate confidence and foster healthy, empowering, and connected relationships. By incorporating trauma-informed and evidence-based therapy practices, he's created a safe haven for healing, honesty, and growth. He'll walk alongside you as you rewrite the script of your story. But beyond his role as a therapist, Kyle's proudest title is Dad. Nothing brings him more joy than spending quality time with his kids. When he's not immersed in the world of therapy, he indulges his love for the great outdoors, cheers on the Utah Jazz, and loves reading. This webinar will share a framework to help you cultivate safe, connecting, and value-based relationships that are trustworthy. If you have any questions, please ask them by entering your questions through the Q&A function. The chat will be turned off, so this is the best place to ask Kyle any questions that you may have. We'll have a 15-minute Q&A at the end of his presentation, so write down your questions and save them for the end. If you have joined us for the CEU credit, make sure to stay on until the end of the presentation. The survey needed for your credit will automatically load onto the screen, and then you will receive an email from the Utah Marriage Commission with your certificate. You can also email the Utah Marriage Commission to receive your survey on this webinar. Once the survey is completed, you will attain an email with your CEU credit certification. So now we're going to turn the time over to Kyle. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Olivia. I appreciate the introduction as well as just putting on these webinars.
Of
So
course.
thank you.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you here. So
Yeah. So I'm gonna be talking about trustworthy relationships and like what does it actually mean and look like to build safety, security, and connection within a romantic relationship. And so looking at this, I want to dive in a little bit deeper and more, just kind of into my background and framework around things as well. So I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. I've taught graduate classes in regards to interpersonal relationships, how to develop healthy relationships, for couple and families counseling classes for mental health counseling graduate students, and then worked in cooperative extension, helping develop and implement programs and evaluate them for relationships and also divorce programs and co-parenting programs, and done some research in that area. And a lot of these things I've looked at, what are the transition points that couples experience, that individuals experience that help facilitate positive outcomes? What's the data show across these areas? And then, as Olivia mentioned, I like a reading nerd. I love to read. I read a lot of books. And so I'll look at information from many different sources and see where can we triangulate data. So what's the mental health field saying and family life educators saying? What is the business world saying? What's a marketing world saying? And like where is there data triangulation that there's some consistent commonalities and themes about what facilitates healthy relationships and positive outcomes? And then from that as well, there's the picture of me and with my kids, and I think just as well as in parenting and families, things are so complex and so joyous. There's so many wonderful things within that, and so I think it's just from that personal perspective. That's why I included that in to know. Like I think one of the misnomers oftentimes in relationships, even with couples that come in that I'm doing therapy with, is that the couple that's been married 50 years, they got it figured out. Like they know how to do relationships, which may be true, and it may not be true. It may be a very unhealthy relationship that they were in. Maybe it was abusive or emotionally abusive, or just toxic in different ways. And they didn't know how to have a healthy relationship or set healthy boundaries and or lived a parallel relationship where sometimes it's seen as the person who's never been married or in a long-term relationship or that's been divorced once or twice or whatever it is. It's like, man, what's wrong with them? Like, why haven't they got to have figured out how to do relationships where in reality they may have a lot of insight and knowledge into that relationships in different ways and be very capable and understanding of how to cultivate deep connections with people as well. So one of the things that I do when I'm working with couples specifically is I do an initial consultation appointment with them, and I ask every single couple that I work with this question. That's what would a successful outcome look like? If you were to have a good experience in couples counseling, what would be different afterwards, right? Some solution focused type questions. And 95% of the time, I get the exact same answer, and it's improved communication. Everyone words this a little bit different, right? We can manage conflict better as we're talking. We wouldn't shut down. Like they just be able to hear what I'm saying. I just want to communicate and talk better. We just need talking skills, communication skills. And it makes sense that that's what people are communicating because they're in distress when they're coming into counseling. And so clearly there's been some communication breakdowns. And oftentimes that's where a lot of the pain points are coming out at is when we're talking. Um, and we don't know how to work and to get through that. Now, on the other side of this, what I've never had someone articulate to me when I ask that question is saying, you know what, Kyle, like I want to feel safe and secure. I want to have deep confidence in myself and in my partner. I want to have deep emotional intimacy and connection. I want to feel desired and I want to desire my partner. I want to have amazing sex and I want to have deep abiding confidence and trust in our relationship, in us individually and together. Like no one said that to me ever or anything remotely close to that, though that's in reality oftentimes what people are looking for within their relationship. And so, why don't they say that? And oftentimes, people don't communicate that because they don't know what they want until they've experienced it. Or maybe that hasn't been modeled for them. They haven't seen that, what that looks like in a relationship or how to do that. And they're stuck in this pain point of like, we want to improve communication. And so, how do we help address that want and the need at the same time? And helping achieve both outcomes and helping getting them even to buy into the therapeutic process is we help address the communication part, but also the parts beneath that that are actually getting in the way for a couple to create the relationship of their dreams, to have that deep connection, that safety, that security that really they're longing for. And they just sometimes don't have the verbiage to say, or they're in survival mode, crisis mode, or have gone through such significant trauma, right? It's I'm just showing up in this call or in this office and doing the best that I can. Um, and so, in looking at this, understanding a framework, I think, for relationships as well as kind of a theory in general, right, is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And so, this is so important to understand when we're working with couples, right? The baseline of the needs that they have that are there, safety, what's emotional safety, what's physical safety, what's love and belonging and esteem and self actualization. Now, this is great as a model and in theory, and how do we help apply this to couples, to individuals, to couples counseling in a way that creates connection and in a way that's understood as a even simpler framework and uses language that more is understood and that resonates with the people that we're working with. So I'm going to break this down and using some different language, but this is kind of a backing theoretical basis for many of the concepts that I'm going to be talking about in connection with relationships as well. So when when I'm thinking about relationships and working with couples, one of the analogies that resonates well with them is a dance, that relationships are like a dance. For most couples, there was a point in their relationship where it was good. Like there's a reason they got together. There's a reason that they got married or why they've been together for so long, that things were really ebbing and flowing and going great. And then something happened. A lot of things happened along the way. And it turns more to the disconnection, to the arguments. And it's like we've forgotten how to dance. It's like we're eighth graders at a dance and we're like standing across the room looking at each other, wondering how do we do this, or we're stepping on each other's feet, or and it's not going well and it's frustrating, and we can start to get resentful or withdraw or defensive. Why did you do this? Why is this happening? And it's not fun. And the relationship's no longer fun. It's not connecting either. And it becomes very, very frustrating. And so couples, they're very eager to communicate what the problem is, what's not going well when they come in for to talk with someone, for with a therapist. What sometimes they're not remembering or connecting with is their story as well. And John Gottman talks about this, right? The value of helping a couple remember their story, their love story, and and some of the benefits that can come to that from there's a lot of data that he has around that. Now, one of the questions when I'm working with couples, typically in a first session, that I'll ask is, I want to know your story. Like, tell me how you met. Tell me how you fell in love. What did you find attractive about each other? Where was the passion at? And just get them talking. And this does a couple of things. One is if a couple responds with like, I don't know, like that tells me a lot pretty quick about where they're at. But then also it can help reconnect them with what do they love about the other person? Why did they fall in love? What were the things that were there before this dance got messy, before life happened, before they changed, before their partner changed, and all of these things? And that can help create kind of a perspective shift a little bit within that first appointment. Now, there's a lot of different tools, assignments you can give to be able to help a couple focus on what's going right and see the things that are even happening within their relationship when there's a safe relationship that's there. And we'll go into assessing that a little bit more later. But to assure and help them see what's going right, how can we focus on how to help things go well, where a lot of our attention has been responding to what's going on, and that's why we're here. This isn't working. Um, and now when we can hear their response of this is why we fell in love, and also this is what's not working right now, oftentimes couples are going to describe similar personality characteristics and attributes about their partner. So for example, they'll be saying, they just never talk to me. Like they just shut down, they walk away. I never know what they're thinking. Like I never even know what they're feeling. I haven't heard them communicate an emotion in like 15 years. We've been married 15 years, right? And this dialogue's going. And then like, well, what tell me why you fell in love. They were just so comfortable. Like there was space for me and I was able to just share my emotions and kind of have my assertive personality there. And they were always constant in just being there. And I felt comfortable just talking and going and doing things. And the other person, maybe in the same dynamic, they might say something like, man, they were just so assertive and I loved that and outgoing and just so talkative and they just like brought things out of me. And now it's like, I don't have space. I can't even say what I'm thinking, let alone do anything because there's so much energy that's here. And really, they're describing the similar personality characteristic and attributes. It's just kind of the side effects of those, the positive and the side effects that maybe always don't show up in the best ways. And when you can help a couple see that, it can reframe for them and use some systemic reframing that like you're not broken, your partner's not broken, you're not a problem, your partner's not a problem. It's the way that you're dancing together. It's just not working. And we need to refigure out how to do this dance to create this safety, create this connection, to create the things that you want for your life and for your relationship. And as part of this, it's also opening up options and decisions for the couple. And so being able to understand where they're at, right? Are you totally in this relationship no matter what, forever and ever and ever? It's like, I'm done. I'm already out. Talk to the divorce attorney. Like, I'm out of here. Like, where are they at to get an understanding? And then being able to help them see and understand and kind of explicitly share that there's situations that can come up where maybe staying together is not healthy. It may not be safe. Like if your partner goes Walter White, that may not be the relationship to stay in. That are safety concerns there. Where on the other side, being able to say like, there's reasons to stay in this relationship, and what would those be for you? What would you need to feel good about staying and being in this relationship? What would that look like for it to be different? While also helping them see there's options. They're not stuck. There's options on how to help strengthen the relationship, on how to leave the relationship. But one thing's for certain is that the relationship, how it's gone, the dance of how it's gone, that can't continue as is. That relationship is getting divorced, or that relationship's not going to continue. Um, and so there's a lot of things to consider within that. And even when someone is, whether you're in a relationship and or you're not in a relationship right in that moment, that can open up options to understand how do I show up. And we're going to talk about what that looks like for you. And so when I am looking at this hierarchy of needs, and we're going to come through and talk about each one of these areas more specific as well. But this is looking at what are the needs? What are the basic needs that are there, right? Is there housing? Is there food? Is there shelter? Is there resources? Is there a support network outside of just counseling therapists? Those things are so important. Safety, connection, and values within a relationship. So we're going to go through and talk about each of these areas specifically and what this looks like and how to help a couple navigate this to get a different outcome within their relationship. So in a relationship, safety is the priority. It's not a priority, it is the priority. And so what does that mean? What does safety look like? A lot of times when we're thinking about relationship safety, like physical safety comes to mind, and that is so important to understand and to address. I'm not going to go into like the interventions or approach around physical safety if there's domestic violence concerns, for example. So that's a completely different approach for counseling, for therapy, for relationships in that situation for sure. Um, but that is the priority. Like trying to go in and do any other type of therapy work, going and doing EFT and let's deepen emotions where there's physical safety concerns, that's harmful. That is not helpful, right? That needs to be able to be assessed and understood right up front. Um, and there's ways to go about that. And again, I'm not going into that part here, but that's really important to acknowledge. This. And then basic needs as well. When we're talking about these things, if someone is working 90 hours a week just to make rent each month, and we're saying like, all right, here's a talking stick intervention, let's use I statements. Like, yeah, that's going to be really helpful when they're probably not sleeping very well, they're exhausted, and it's not going to help create some change. And so, how can we help create some change at that level for them and intervene there to help their get some stabilization, help them get support that they need to actually be able to address some of these other things. And so that's a huge priority. Now, another part of this is emotional safety. And this can look a lot of different ways when I'm talking about emotional safety. I am talking about being in the present moment and being able to have an actually safe place to be. One of the things I think that's often under assessed and under addressed in couples counseling is when there's emotional and psychological abuse occurring. And sometimes couples, right, when that's there, they won't stay in, or one partner won't stay in or want to be a part of couples counseling. So sometimes that gets tricky and they may not be as present in the therapeutic work, literally or figuratively. But this is really important to assess, right? When there is power and control dynamics and manipulation and gaslighting and coercion and control and humiliation and isolating all of these things that's creating an unsafe space, that's got to be addressed. Um, because without that, we're not going to be able to make any other changes in a relationship. And understanding that beneath that, there's trauma for both people that are there. Other aspects looking at emotional safety is what's happened within the relationship. Is there a history of trauma or betrayal trauma or affairs or addiction, abuse that's there, and or traumatic things that each person has been through, whether it's a big T like a specific event as in a car accident, or it was I was consistently bullied or just made fun of at school growing up over time, or whenever I communicated my emotional needs in my family growing up, there wasn't a space for it, and I was told to be quiet or just to like work harder and don't talk about it. Um, and so how can we create this emotional safety and help those things be addressed for each partner, each person within the relationship? Now, one of the really interesting things that I found is when you're able to appropriately assess for safety while also helping each partner feel seen, heard, and understood at a deep level, that we can go in and slow down of what's their thought process, what's going on internally, what emotionally is happening for them, how are they behaving and responding, what's the negative core beliefs and the fears that are beneath those emotional responses and reactions, relating to resulting in reactive responses and trauma responses and behaviors, whether that's like I'm fighting, like I'm getting defensive and I'm escalating, or I'm shutting down and I just stop talking, or is it that I just start people pleasing and say whatever I need to get through this situation? Or do I just freeze? I don't know what to do. And those situations in a relationship is going to create a lack of safety, disconnection. And so being able to help see when that's happening and why, and some of those behaviors that may be coming out, even if it is behaviors that aren't okay, like uh, maybe it's potentially emotionally abusive behaviors that aren't severe, but maybe more kind of mild, moderate in nature that happens. That's not minimizing abuse in any way when that occurs. So being able to acknowledge and see when that's happened, things I've seen with couples as I've sat with them, those experiences, to be able to help them both feel understood and then reflect back to them like, this is what I'm observing. What you're describing is that there is this incident that occurs that's significant. Um, and these are the dynamics around it. And they're like, yeah, that happens. And this kind of follows, right? There's this makeup stage that comes into play. There's a little bit of slight responsibility taking. Things change, promises of change happening, and then things are calm a little bit in the relationship. And then there's this tension building, and it starts to feel like I'm walking on eggshells all the time, and I'm not authentic. I can't be honest. I'm managing your emotions. You're managing mine, until this incident happens again, and reflect back like, this sounds like it could be part of a cycle of abuse or emotional abuse that's happening. Like, I've actually seen couples be able to respond with relief, like in tears of saying, wow, thank you so much for helping us see this and understand this. This is the first time we felt hope on how we can help change, because it's not about focusing on just the problem, but what's going on beneath that, and how can we address the trauma that's there? How can we address the emotional responses that are there and help gain more awareness? And so when we can help each partner as well work on those things, it can create significantly different outcomes for them. And so this comes to the question then, what do I need to do to be and to feel safe? So assuring safety. Safety is the priority. So making sure those appropriate resources are in place for the individual. If necessary, there's a safety plan in place as well. Clear boundaries and expectations. Boundaries are there to assure safety within a relationship. And so I'm not talking about rigid where it becomes controlling or just like a lack of boundaries that's enabling, but when I can have clear boundaries and I can understand what's going on emotionally for me, to be able to see what my needs are and what do I need to feel and to be safe, and then communicate clear expectations within a relationship. And that opens up a lot of information to learn, right? Are my boundaries going to be able to be respected? Are these healthy expectations, are they going to be able to be expected and be able to be met? If not, that creates an awkward spot in the relationship. What does that mean? If they are, okay, that opens things up more. And then is there the support system that's there in place of being able to have people that you can trust, that sometimes aren't always like the closest friends. Friends are really important. Families are really important. Sometimes they can be very emotionally connected and reactive to the situation themselves as well. And so someone who you can trust to be honest with you, to help you be able to be seen and understood, and help you navigate things in difficult moments. That's really important to have that. That can be a therapist, it can be a coach, it can be a friend, but having that person or people is really, really important. And so the other part of this safety is now when there's the boundaries in place, this is an actually safe place. So there's not physical or emotional safety concerns happening, but my body is not feeling that. Um, my nervous system is responding and reacting. And so how can we help regulate the nervous system and address, right? Is there a fight response happening? Is there a flight response? Is it freezing? Is it fawning? And how can we help with grounding and provide tools and resources that are actually effective and actually work? Oftentimes, when I've worked with someone in this spot, they're like, okay, I did the thing. I went and did box breathing. I went running, like ice bath. That's a thing now, right? Like I did this, but nothing felt different. Like I'm still reactive. I go back in this conversation and we're right back to the exact same place. So what that tells me is one, was the situation actually safe that they went back into? If not, that's got to be addressed. Or was it that they were using a hammer and they needed a screwdriver in the situation? They're using a great tool. It just wasn't effective for what their body was experiencing to be able to regulate the nervous system, to ground themselves, and to be present. And so matching the right tool and finding what works and is effective to help you be present, to help your body actually calm down. You can like feel that and feel your body self-soothing and to be able to regulate the emotion, to tolerate the distress that's there. And this opens up the space for that emotional responsiveness versus reactivity to identify what am I actually feeling, right? An emotion wheel can be a great tool in this situation, but when I can label and understand what that is, it helps me see, okay, like, is this me emotionally reacting to something that's coming from the past? Is this what triggered me, this emotion in me? Is this emotion representative of what's happening in the moment? Either way, the emotion's valid, but understanding that, what am I feeling can help me learn to be responsive and seeing what am I needing? What's going to help me feel this emotion? What's going to help me work through this? What's going to help me have a safe experience with this emotion? And to be able to communicate about what I am thinking, what I am feeling, and what I'm needing to my partner, and to be able to take 100% responsibility for my own thoughts and emotions and not put that on my partner. That I can own what I'm feeling. I can learn to regulate my own emotions, take responsibility for them, and communicate that now the cycle is changing, right? There's no longer the reactivity or the shutting down. It's seeing this is what's happening and I can now become really clear about how I'm going to show up in the relationship because I'm emotionally present. And this opens up the door for us to be able to look at what are some of the skills or tools to help a couple. So when safety is there, now there's an emotionally regulated place. They're not experiencing emotional flooding and they are literally safe and feel emotionally safe and present and grounded in the relationship. The next question I'd have is, do you feel connected? Is there a connection there? And a connection with yourself and a connection with your partner as well. And so this looks at independence, right? Do I feel empowered? Am I just going through the motions, checking the boxes on things? What matters to me? What's important to me? And am I living true to myself? And how am I able to depend and connect with my partner? This is kind of that ebb and the flowing of that dance that I can be independent. I can take space away from my partner. I can come back and reconnect with them. I can own my part and apologize and show up. I can provide space for them and allow them to leave and to pull back a little bit and have that trust that they're going to come back and we can reconnect within the relationship. And so if the connection's there, great, we're in a really good place, right? I'm safe and I'm feeling connected. If the connection's not there, it's okay, what do I need to feel connected? Why is that connection not there? And that's an area for us to address. One of the areas I see couples get into a pickle, it's an interesting way to say that, is when they may feel connected, they feel a connection with their partner, but it's actually not safe. That can create risk for abuse and for trauma and things to happen within a relationship. Or maybe they're feeling safe, but they don't feel connected, but they really want this relationship and they want their partner want to be with them. And they're working so hard and they're exhausted all the time because this connection's not there. And resentment starts to build in because I'm doing so much. It doesn't matter. I don't feel seen. You're doing so much. It doesn't matter. Like you can look at, the emotional bank account, things of John Gottman, the 5-to-1 ratio, 5 positive interactions for one negative interaction within a relationship. Um, in this situation, this dynamic. And so, what do you need to feel connected to your partner? Is this that you've been working 80 hours a week and all your emotional intimacy is actually going to your work and not to your partner, or there's not space for emotional intimacy in other areas of your life? And so when you're meeting new people, if you're single and you're dating, that it's hard to establish that connection that's there. Is this that I'm so stressed and overwhelmed, like parenting. Like we're talking about connection and this is parenting. Like I've been dealing with this all day long. Plus I got this. And I'm so stressed and overwhelmed. Okay, how can we remove unnecessary stressors? Well, everything's necessary. Okay, how can we bring in more support? What's it going to look like? How can we adjust that to decrease the amount of stress to help you regulate your nervous system? Because it sounds like you're feeling a little emotionally dysregulated and maybe not emotionally present. Um, and so in order to increase the connection, we got to help you be more present. It's not just about how can we put our foot down on the accelerator in the relationship of like date night, that's it. It's also how can we take our foot off of the brake, all these other things that are coming up that may be getting in the way, the stress, the pressures, unclear boundaries that are there to create a space where connection can be possible within the relationship. And then when you're opening up the door to that for connection to be there, it can be, do we need time together? Are we still dating each other? Are we just going through the motions? Are we still being curious and getting to know each other and asking each other questions and learning about each other? Is it we need more closeness and physical touch? What's getting in the way of that? Maybe we need more non-sexual physical touch that's there. Is it that we need literally just more time together, or I need more validation? I just need to hear from you that you're attracted to me, that you want me, that you care about me. Um, it's so important. I just need to do things together. I want to feel like we're on the same team. I want to spend time working on projects together. It would really be helpful if you can help out in these other areas that are becoming overwhelming for me in life. And these things can change throughout life of what the thing is. And that may change when if you have kids, or if you don't have kids, or early in a career, or later in a career, or after a traumatic event, there's not a traumatic event. Like that's going to adjust all these things, what's creating connection. But beneath that, it's also if you can identify what's the emotion, what is it about date night that helps me feel a certain way? Do I feel valued? Do I feel important to my partner? If that's what that is, it's like, okay, what else brings that feeling of importance to you when your partner values you and you feel that importance? Is that when they're writing a note to you because they're thinking about you? Is that when they're talking so positively about you to other people, or validating you directly? When you can identify what that is, you can help create more connection and get your needs met and ask for those things within your relationship as well. And so when that safety is there, so are you safe? Do you feel safe in your relationship? Yes. Okay. Do you feel connected? Is this connection there in your relationship? Yes, that's there. Then we can start to look at, what do you want in your relationship? And what do you want for yourself? Does this align with my values? Like, what do I want? And learning how to make value-based decisions for yourself and within a relationship. So I may be safe, I may feel connected, but this doesn't align with my values, or I don't want this. Like, yeah, maybe I'm emotionally safe. Maybe I feel really connected with you, but I don't want to have sex. I don't want to do that tonight. That's okay. Or maybe it is that I don't want to go on this trip. Like, you know what? At one point, I thought I enjoyed watching chick flick movies. I actually don't like chick flicks. I hate them. I don't want to watch a chick flick movie ever again. I still want to spend time with you. I want to be with you. I just don't want to watch chick flicks. Like, and you can be more authentic and true and honest to get clear about what are the things that are important to you, that matter to you. And there's been many times when I ask this question that people are like, I don't know what I want, or I don't know what I actually value, or what my values are. And there's so much energy and effort and attention that's often spent giving to all the things that matter to them, but they actually don't care about. It's not their core values. And because of that, they've said yes to all of those things. What's happened is they said no to what truly matters to them. So they're feeling exhausted. And they're working really, really, really hard and then wondering, why are we in a parallel relationship? Like as John Gottman would say, meaning like we're business partners, we're parents together, but we're not connected. Like, I don't even know if I love you. Like, do you love me? Like, what's happening here? I think we do, but that disconnection is so severe, that resentment is so severe that you're not really connecting in the relationship anymore at all. And when you can come back in and see what are your values, like if you knew you couldn't fail, what would you be doing different? If you knew that you had 30 days left before you were going to die, but you weren't scared about it because you're just fine and everything was going to be all right, like what would you do? What would you spend that time doing? Like use some solution focused type questions can help in these situations to see what truly matters to you. And then we can help people identify what those values are. Sometimes it's still hard to make a decision. Like, what do you need to feel good about a decision, to make a decision on how to move forward? Um, and this can be learning to becoming really comfortable with rejection. Rejection is a very healthy thing. And when someone says no, even in a romantic relationship, doesn't mean the other person's not good enough. And right, oftentimes it goes this place of shame that the other person experiences, where in reality, what it's saying is rejection is one, protection from unhealthy relationships or unhealthy situations within relationships. And it's also just saying this isn't the right time for this right now. And like if someone's not feeling connected, there's a lack of connection, but they're saying, yes, I'm going to have sex, that creates problems within a relationship. Or maybe they just don't want that, or about how money's being spent, or where we're working, or what trips we're going on. It can be in connection to anything. Just parenting decisions. That if we're making decisions that when we actually feel disconnected, right, from ourselves or from our values, it's going to create symptoms. It's going to bring up problems and challenges in the relationship. So when you can embrace rejection without saying I'm a problem, like it's like thank you so much for saying no, like I know you care about me and you love me, there's this trust that's there built up over time. Like I'm curious, like what's going on for you? Like are you feeling safe right now? If not, how can we help increase safety? Do we need space? Do we need closeness? What's that going to look like? Do you feel connected? What do we need to increase some connection in a relationship, or what do you want? And when we can understand that, then there can be a space for both partners to be able to communicate what their needs are, even when that's hurtful. I get these aren't like fun, exciting conversations to have. They're hard and anxiety provoking. But when you can sit in that space with each other, it can cultivate a space for connection with each other. And when you can align with that, you can go through really challenging and difficult things. I'm not saying like unsafe things, right? Safety is the priority, but you can go through challenging and difficult, hard things in your life for the reasons that align with your values and decisions. The fact that can feel empowering, it can build confidence and trust in a relationship. But when you're going through really hard things for reasons that don't align with your values, for disconnecting reasons, or you don't even know why, that's likely going to create disconnection, feeling stuck, misery, unhappy, resentment within a relationship. And so seeing what is it that I want and getting really intentional about how you show up. And this is intentionality over fear within a relationship, as opposed to being afraid. So I'm not going to communicate what I'm actually thinking and feeling to my partner, or I'm going to get reactive and they're going to manage my emotions for me, or I'm going to shut down and pull away because I'm scared. I can get really intentional. I can take 100% ownership and responsibility for myself, for my thoughts and for my emotions, for how I show up and for creating a safe and connecting place within the relationship. And I can lean forward with that. Now, typically where fear and anxiety starts to happen more in a relationship is when you're living in the future. It's when something's just happened and all of a sudden I felt triggered and I played connect the dots in my mind and I just created this whole picture about what's happening. And now this is why you're doing this, is what you're thinking, this is what you're feeling. I'm making assumptions and I'm starting to react based off of things that have created an imagination ship. That's something that's not actually representative of what's real, but now we're living out an imagination ship, and this happens in both partners' minds. And so it's not authentic. It's not real. It's reactionary within the relationship. And that goes back to safety and emotional safety at the very beginning to be able to self regulate and be present. Now, when depression and disconnection and sadness starts to take over, that often can come in when we're living in the past. Like, man, things are used to be so good, or I'm so angry about all of these things that's happened. And I'm not saying that like poop is poop, right? We don't have to make anything smell good or be good. Like terrible things happen and it's just terrible. It is what it is, and that sucks. And learning how to be present, right? And not living in the past that's going to bring that pain, not living in the future that brings the fear and anxiety, but there's peace. And peace is found when you're embracing the present moment and embracing that gift, because in the present moment, that's the only place that connection and authenticity in a relationship can happen. It's the only place that connection can happen is in the present moment with someone, with yourself. And when you can create that level of safety and emotional presence and connection and line up for value-based decisions, it can create a foundation for long-term second order change within a relationship, change in the belief system, change perspective of myself and the world around me, while also having the tools and the ability to be able to navigate difficult situations as they arise and as they come up. And I know I just went over a lot of information in this webinar, and kind of just a brief overview, right, of those three things to look at is: one is, do I feel safe? Two, do I feel connected? And three, what do I want? And does this align with my values as well? Um, yeah, so at this point, be open to any questions that people might have as well.
Great. Thank you, Kyle. That was really awesome and really appreciate all the information that you did share with us. So yeah, we are going to be moving into our Q&A section of the webinar. So if you have not already, you can go ahead and leave any questions that you'd like to be answered by Kyle in just down in the Q&A section. So let's see. I'm gonna open that up. All right. So question 1 is, what kind of advice would you give when love languages and needs are not being met?
Great question. So one of the things I'd look at first is like, why, right? Is this an emotionally safe place? And so is there an inability to regulate emotions to stay present? Is there such resentment build up that healing needs to be there? Is there a lack of understanding or awareness of what those are? And when I look at love languages of, what that is, like physical touch, and I think one of the things I'll say about the love languages too is that everyone needs all of those, right? There may be things that kind of resonate more and may change at different times of your life or relationship of what is kind of more impactful for you in that moment. But when, say, it's physical touch, or say it's words of affirmation, or service, acts of service, whatever it is, it's seeing what's actually getting in the way and being able to maintain this curiosity of seeing, why wouldn't my partner do that? Am I not understanding them? Is this not a safe place right now? How can we create that safety to be able to address some of these connection points within the relationship as well? And so, like one intervention sometimes I'll give with couples, typically at the beginning stage of therapy, is I'll have them write down, like, what are 5 things that you're going to do to say I love you to your partner between now and the next time that I meet with them? And I'll say, don't share this with your partner. Don't show this to them. I just want you to do these things. Don't tell them when you did it. And I want you each to be looking for, what is the other person doing to say that I love you over this next time period. Um, and that can help create some shifts and just some intentionality on both sides to see, how can we connect, how and what is there, and kind of adjust things where it may be feeling stuck. So that's some initial thoughts to keep in mind.
Next question is says, my partner seems to struggle with sharing their emotions with me. How can I encourage them to share more without being too pushy?
Yeah. So when someone's not sharing their emotions, one of the first things I would look at from a therapy side would be, are they emotionally regulated? Right? They may have a hard time actually staying present, and so they're overwhelmed or frustrated and more on the logical side of how to think about things or resolve things. And so maybe emotion's uncomfortable for them. And so why is that uncomfortable? Where did they learn that from? That it wasn't safe or okay to express their emotions. and being able to help them become more aware. So like a resource or tool could be the emotion wheel to look at and see, like just to be able to identify like what is the emotion I'm experiencing to be able to communicate about that. That can help with awareness and also increase the ability to respond to that. But there's so much that can go into why someone's not communicating or sharing what they're thinking or feeling. And so I kind of need more context or information around that. But the emotion wheel could be a good place to start. And then also, um, the pursual, right, or kind of over pursuing, seeking that emotion sometimes can cause the other person to shut down more. And so it's a hard balance when you may not know what they're feeling and wanting to understand that, but they're not communicating that. So if it's getting stuck, that could also be an indication to, you know, open the door to a counselor, a therapist, or some other resources.
Great. Next question. What should I do when boundaries I set in a relationship are not being respected?
Yeah, so that's really informative. You're learning a lot about your partner. So, depending on what the boundaries are about safety. And so, if my partner can't respect me enough to assure this is a safe relationship, it's going to be a hard relationship to stay in. And it's going to be hard to have emotional safety and to be able to be present in that relationship. Um, so, understanding like what is it about the boundary that they're having a hard time with, but also at the end of the day, like if this is a boundary that is something that's a matter of safety, like they're teaching you a lot about them. And right, that would be an indication as well of like probably need some additional support or help navigating that. Um, and also being able to see how can I hold a boundary? In other words, like what's the outcome of that? Because sometimes a boundary is crossed and it doesn't mean like nothing changes, nothing happens, and so then it's not really a boundary. Like meaning that nothing's changing or different when someone's violating that. And so having a response to that, and it can be a small thing, it can be a big thing, depending on what that is, but just knowing what do I need to keep myself safe if a boundary is not respected and following through on that consistently, and then making decisions for yourself of do I want to be in a relationship? Is it a healthy thing for me to be in a relationship where I'm not respected, where safety is not valued or respected? That's hard.
Great. Okay. I struggle with dealing with rejection in my relationship. Do you have any steps with working through those feelings?
Yeah, I think that's an honest response. Like, I don't think anyone enjoys getting rejected. Like, yes, they just said no to sex, or I just asked someone out that I really liked and they told me to go to hell. It's like that hurts, that sucks. Um, and so I think being able to hold on to yourself and separate, like, it's not about me. Like sometimes we've learned at different points in our lives of like if I'm rejected, it means I'm a reject or I'm a problem or I'm broken or I'm not good enough, where it doesn't mean any of that, right? It simply just means that wasn't the right time for this or wasn't the right situation or relationship. And so I think turning to the emotional regulation, identify what are you feeling to be able to respond to that, regulate that emotion. If there's some past kind of traumatic things connected to those emotions for you, like that can be helpful to work through those in counseling or in therapy to process through and decrease the reactivity of those triggers of those negative beliefs and help kind of change the viewpoint perspective that happens when you're feeling triggered in that way. Um, and also just staying curious. So like it depends a lot on what that rejection is, and then when there is a safe relationship and there's connection there, and say just using the example around sex, someone says no, I don't want to have sex, and the other person's like hurt by that. Like that's okay for them to be hurt and to be sad and to have a hard time. Um, and to be able to communicate that and share that and have a space where their emotions can also be accepted and have and be seen, and it's okay to not be okay. Like I'm not okay, you're not okay, and we're okay. in a safe and secure connected relationship, it's going to be able to navigate that. I'm not saying it's going to be pleasant or fun, it's going to suck, but it's going to create more emotional intimacy and a deeper emotional connection that then it's going to increase your ability to trust your partner. Because then when they say, yeah, I do want to have sex, or yes, let's go do this, I'd love to go on date night, they mean it. And there's emotional honesty within the relationship, which creates connection.
What if I want change or to try out relationship therapy, but my partner doesn't or is unwilling?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think that's something that comes up for a lot of people. Like one person's more motivated to change than the other, one person's willing to help, and the other person's not. And so, one, seeking individual counseling or therapy, even for relationship dynamics, can still be really helpful um, for you to get the support that you need to see how do I want to show up different? How can I increase safety? How can I learn about setting clear boundaries? What do I need to feel more connected and change some of these dynamics within a relationship and to be able to make decisions? It's again going to be challenging, and I'm not saying that therapy is the only way for change to happen or the only solution. I think there's a lot of ways that change can happen, a lot of ways people can work on themselves and experience healing. But if one person's not willing to change, not willing to put the work in, not willing to do anything different, and that's consistent over a long period of time, that's a hard relationship to be in, and be a hard relationship to stay in, at least to have safety and connection and to have space for what you'd want. So I think in that situation, right, I'd recommend seeking some individual counseling support and then learning some tools on your side and working through some things as well that can help both change the relationship, but also really help yourself in that situation.
Right. Okay, well, it looks like that is all the questions that we had for this webinar series. We just want to thank you again, Kyle, so much for holding this for us tonight. We, as a Utah Marriage Commission, really appreciate your support and willing to come on and share with us all of your knowledge. And thank you to all of us that joined on this webinar. We're so grateful for your questions and participation and support in our organization. Once again, if you attended this webinar for a CEU credit, make sure to stay on until the webinar is completely over for your survey and certificate, or email the UMC for your survey. Upon completion, you will get a certificate emailed back from us. So thank you again, everyone, and have a great evening.